name is Jillian Morgan. Let's talk about my new deck. Now, I've been saying that I probably am going to play Vampires. Well, I kind of built it. Here's the thing. I kind of went into this thinking that I'm not very good at homebrewing. And it's kind of true, but I like the deck that I've made. A lot of people were telling me, Jillian, why are you bothering with this? But then I wouldn't have anything to play, and if I don't have anything to play, then that means I have to do homework. And who wants to do homework? Not me. I decided instead that I'm just gonna build it. If it works out well, awesome. I'm super happy about that. If it doesn't, then you know what? Okay, at least I tried. And that's the most important thing I think about homebrewing, is that, you know what? If you really want to do it, just go ahead. Freaking do it. Even if you think it's gonna be terrible, but you just want to play it, you just want to give it a try, go for it. Who cares what anybody else says? Just do it. Just freaking go for it, man. Let's go over what I've built. 4 Bloodseekers. These are definitely great, especially against other aggro decks. I don't really see any reason not to run these. The only vampire that survived rotation. So I kind of feel like it's an homage to the old vampires. Blood-Crazed Neonate, which is from the new set. She's a 2-drop, 2/1 Juggernaut, and every time she deals combat damage, she gets a +1/+1 counter. Now this, basically every time I dropped her, she was a threat, because I have to attack with her every time. So that means that my opponent has to deal with her every turn, and if they cannot, they're taking 2, then they're taking 3, then they're taking 4, then they're taking 5, and she just gets to get bigger and bigger and bigger, so they have to deal with her somehow. I kind of think of her as me, because I don't know, she kind of looks like me, I guess, if I was covered in blood and gray. Definitely one of the best cards to come out of this set is Stormkirk Noble. Now, first off, everybody keeps on saying, Jillian, it's Stormkirk. No, it's not. Stromkirk. That spells Stromkirk. I don't know what that is. I assume it's a place. I didn't really realize exactly how awesome until I was playing with him, and I would be playing against decks that run Moran Crusader. He's a human. He can't block this guy. I never really thought really realized how important that would be until I realized how many key creatures are humans. You put him with this next card, Rakish Heir, and it's basically a deal breaker. Whenever a vampire that you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on him. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. So let's see that again. You turn 1, Stormkirk Noble. You turn 2, Blood-Crazed Neonate. Then you turn 3, Rakish Heir. By turn 3, these two are getting double counters. They get so huge. Come at me, bro. Come at me. This curve is just perfect. Vampires have to be cheap and they have to be fast. Crossway Vampire. Now, I only run 3 of these because she's a little bit high up in the mana cost, but she's definitely good for if you're sitting there and your opponent's got this one creature, and that one creature is what's keeping you from killing them. I only run it as a 3 of, though. 4 Vampire Interlopers. The Vampire Interloper is basically Wizard's filler for Bloodghast. He's a 2-drop, 2/1 flying that can't block. The can't block bit is a bit rough. Gets into my way so many times. The flying and the 2/1 bit is really, really cool, especially with like Rakish Heir. Okay, now for like the best card in all of this, Bloodline Keeper. I want to marry this card. All day yesterday I was calling him my new boyfriend. He's just so good, you guys. This is the only transform card in the deck, but it's the best card in the deck. He's a 4-drop 3/3 flying. Tap him to put a 2/2 black vampire creature with flying into the battlefield, and 1 black to transform him, and when he transforms, he becomes the Lord of Lineage. Other vampires I control get +2/+2, and you can still tap him to put a frickin' 2/2 vampire with flying onto the battlefield. 5/5. He's so friggin' good. I was playing against my friend Wayne yesterday. I lucked out so hard. Dropped him, swung in for some insanity, whatever. Passed the turn. He didn't have any removal, so he was like, okay, well, go. And I was like, all right. So I draw. I had another one. And so I was able to play the second one and transform both. It was pretty great. So he was like, oh, crap. Then he was like, okay, I'll ponder. And I'm like, all right. Please don't have a Day of Judgment. Please don't have a Day of Judgment. That would suck. So he ponders, looks at the top 3 cards, and he's like, I'll shuffle. And I'm like, oh my god, he didn't get it. He didn't get the Day of Judgment. So I cut the deck all serious, like, handed it over, draws. Island. Holy crap. This guy is my savior. As far as other spells go, just basic removal stuff. Removal is definitely the most important thing. So I'm running 4 Doomblades. I was kind of considering doing something like Go for the Throat, but with Tempered Steel definitely is going to be starting making a comeback. Doomblade is going to be more important than something like Go for the Throat. Only 2 Dismembers, because I'm not even entirely sure about this, because I feel like a lot of the creatures that I want to dismember are either like 1/1s and 2/2s or 6/6s. So this is a bit rough. Right now I'm running 2 Distress. I might up this number because Distress is super great. I started out running Despise. I figured that Despise, while it is good mana cost, it doesn't hit the things that I need it to hit. For example, I need it to hit removal, planeswalkers, enchantments. Those are the things that I'm more worried about than creature. I have so much creature removal that I don't really worry about creatures that much. But I worry about spells that I can't do shite about. Distress takes a non-land card. So it's really, really, really great, especially when you're going up against control matches and stuff like that. And then there's, of course, Arc Trails. So good. I am actually managed to kill one of my opponents yesterday with 2 of these. I think I'm pretty good on the removal, but other than that, just land, basic stuff. Dragon Skull Summits, of course, 4 of these, and 4 of the Blackcleave Cliffs, of course. The Ghost Quarter is mostly for things like Ink Moth. The only thing that I'm really worried about for this deck would have to be control matchups. Yesterday, whenever I played, I didn't really face any control matchups, so I have no real idea of how to combat that. The first round I got a bye. Hardest round of my life, guys. You have no idea. In the second round I played against my friend Chris McGuire, and he was playing like a red deck. Game 3 he had a Shrine of Burning Rage. I was at like something like 16, 17, and he had like 5 mana. And so he had 2 of them out. One was at like 9 counters, and one was at like 7. And it just was just under enough. I don't know why he just couldn't land any creatures or something. If he draws a land, I'm dead. But I lucked out so hard. He didn't draw an additional land, so he popped 1. Hopefully I can get some friggin' artifact removal up in here. You know what I pulled right at the top of my deck? Shatter. Game 2 I played against my friend Wayne, and you know how that one went. Sorry, bro. I love ya. And then game 4, I played against Carl Haytola, one of my friends, and that was a pretty intense game, actually. I finished 3rd, which I think is really, really, really great, considering that I built this deck like last Wednesday. Let's talk about the sideboard. Like I said, Shatters. 2 Red Sun Zeniths. I'm a bit unsure about these. I've had some people saying, why not just do Devil's Play, which is sort of the same thing, but it has flashback. And I was like, well, okay. The thing is that Red Sun Zenith deals however much damage I want to a single creature, and that creature is exiled, and I get to shuffle this back into my library. So it's great against things like Wormcoil Engine because it exiles it straight off the bat instead of hitting the graveyard. Boom, exiled. There's an additional Distress for control decks, and you definitely want to try and get the Mana Leaks, Day of Judgments, etc. out of their hand, so that you can own them. Slag Storms. Now, I'm a bit worried about running Slag Storms and mass removal like this. It deals 3 damage to each creature. So that means if my creatures aren't big enough, I risk losing my creatures as well, right? It's a bit iffy. There's also 3 Memoricides. I'm a little bit iffy about these, just because there isn't really anything combo-y yet in this format. I'm sure there will be eventually, but right now, the most I can think of taking out with this would be something like Tempered Steel. Traitorous Blood. This is really, really cool, okay? This is a threaten that gives the creature you can't take control of trample. You could take an Inferno Titan and bash to all hell with that thing, and it's basically a fire-breathing trample thing. Ugh. Could be really, really, really cool. That's the deck. Let me know what you guys think about it. Let me know if you guys try it out too, or if you've built something similar. I'd love to hear what you guys have done with this stuff. I think that Vampires is definitely not as good as it used to be, but it's still pretty viable. I think it was so much fun to play, just like mad beatdowns, man. So it was really, really fun to play. It's gotten more expensive as far as mana costs go. Let me know what you guys think about the deck, if you liked it, or if you thought it was jank, or too gimmicky, whatever. Let me know what you think. I always want to hear people's opinions. I don't care. Even if you're talking shit, I don't care. Go ahead. I'll listen.